Imagine standing under like the most blinding, unforgiving spotlight in the global music industry.
Oh, yeah. It's intense.
Right. And
Yeah.
knowing that every single accolade you achieved as this international child prodigy, that it all means absolutely nothing to the audience right in front of you.
It's a terrifying scenario.
It really is. Welcome to Future_Music Deep Dive.
Yeah, that situation introduces just a profoundly compelling psychological tension. I mean, if you put yourself in those shoes for a moment, how do you even navigate that?
I don't think most people could.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
how do you shed a label as sticky and honestly limiting as foreign prodigy?
Because it really is a trap, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. It's a massive trap. The industry absolutely loves the novelty of a gifted child, but, that novelty has a very fast expiration date.
Yeah, they age out of it so quickly.
Right. So we are talking about this immense, just overwhelming pressure of transitioning from a talented outsider to becoming the trusted emotional core of an entirely different culture.
And not just any culture.
Right? A culture with its own beloved narratives. You aren't just memorizing lyrics in a new language. You're being asked to master the intricate, unspoken emotional frequencies of a deeply complex place.
All while the entire music industry is basically just waiting for you to stumble.
Yeah. It's a monumental, almost impossible task.
Exactly. And, if you've been following our journey together on this show, we've spent previous deep dives exploring the early emergence of Gwyn Dorado.
Yeah, looking at those early years.
Right. We looked at those initial sparks of raw talent that first caught the world's attention. But today, we are embarking on a completely different kind of exploration.
A much deeper one, really.
For sure. Today is about profound artistic maturation. We are going to deconstruct the highly complex, meticulously planned musical architecture of recent South Korean media.
And it is so meticulously planned.
It really is. And our mission today is to examine precisely how Gwyn's evolving vocal identity has been just seamlessly integrated into this intricate ecosystem.
It's the evolution from a viral discovery to an indispensable institutionalized specialist.
Totally. And to really understand how she earned that place, we first have to understand the environment she's operating in.
Yeah, the baseline is so important here.
Right. We have to look at the narrative architecture of these soundtracks according to our research, because they function very differently than what many of us in the West might expect.
They really do.
Yeah.
And we can see this architectural approach perfectly executed in the animated feature Teenieping, Legend of the Whale Heartstone.
Yeah, let's talk about Teenieping.
So if you just hear the title of an animated feature, your brain probably defaults to a very specific assumption, right?
Oh, definitely. You hear Teenieping and you think, okay, cute, disposable background music for kids.
Exactly. Bright melodies, simple lyrics, that kind of thing.
But under the supervision of music director Kim Dae-ho, the soundtrack for this film is, well, it's anything but disposable.
It's incredibly deliberate.
Yeah, the documentation shows it is a highly structured storytelling apparatus. Every single track is engineered to carry a specific narrative load.
What Kim Dae-ho has built here is literally a sequenced emotional roadmap.
A roadmap, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The music doesn't just react to the visuals, It dictates the psychological state of the protagonist, Romi's journey.
And the directors achieve this by deploying very specific vocal archetypes.
Right. They aren't just casting good singers, they are casting cultural associations.
So let's break down the first of those archetypes, which functions as the film's emotional baseline. We can call this the veteran anchor.
The anchor. Yeah, I like that.
The track is, because it's the first time, and the casting choice here is just phenomenal. They brought in an absolute powerhouse duo.
That's a massive deal.
Yeah, original soundtrack veteran Baek Ji-young and the highly expressive dramatic actress Jung Ji-so.
For anyone familiar with the landscape of South Korean storytelling, bringing in Baek Ji-young is a huge statement.
She's a legend.
She really is. She isn't just a popular singer, she is an emotional institution. For decades, her vocal tone has been synonymous with the uniquely Korean concept of Han.
And Han is one of those deeply complex cultural concepts that defies a simple one-to-one English translation, isn't it?
Oh, completely.
Like, it's not just sadness.
Not at all. Translating Han simply as sadness strips it of all its cultural weight.
Right.
It is better understood as a deep-seated sorrow, a profound longing, and a collective feeling of unresolved grief and resilience.
It's so layered.
It is. It's born from a long history of national hardship, separation, and endurance. Physiologically, when a master like Baek Ji-young sings with Han, She is doing something incredibly complex with her vocal cords.
Like anatomically.
Yeah. She is manipulating the subglottal pressure and the closure of her vocal folds to create this slightly breathy weeping quality.
Wow.
It's like a controlled turbulence in the vocal tract that sounds like a suppressed sigh. You literally hear the weight of lived experience in the physical vibration of her voice.
That is fascinating. And in the context of Teenieping, Legend of the Whale Heartstone, this track anchors the film's central theme of the maternal-child bond.
Exactly. The core relationship.
It's specifically about the pain of separation between the protagonist, Romy, and her missing mother, Queen Belita.
Which is heavy stuff.
It is. Furthermore, pairing Baek Ji-young with Jung Ji-seo, an actress celebrated for carrying heavy dramatic roles, translates that visual acting prestige directly into the audio landscape.
It transforms a cartoon theme into a piece of profound cinematic melancholy.
It does. It gives the animated world a devastatingly real emotional gravity. But I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
We are talking about Teenieping. It's a colorful, vibrant, animated marine adventure.
True.
Does a film whose primary visual aesthetic is aimed at younger audiences truly require such heavy, prestigious emotional weight?
It's a fair question.
I mean, we are talking about a concept born of national grief being injected into a movie about magical ocean creatures. Isn't that a bit intense?
It's a completely fair question. And it's a tension that directors in this medium have to carefully balance.
Yeah.
But the answer to why they do it is fascinating.
Okay, lay it on me.
It goes to the core of how South Korean media views its audience. The short answer is absolutely yes, it needs that weight.
Why, though?
Because it grounds the fantasy in genuine, universal human emotion, and it acknowledges who is actually in the theater.
I see where you're going.
Think about the physical reality of a cinema audience for a family film. It's not just a room full of 6-year-olds.
Right, multi-generational viewing.
Exactly. It's children sitting next to their parents and often their grandparents. The visual spectacle, the bright colors, the fast-paced animation, the cute character designs that engages the younger viewers.
It keeps them entertained.
Yeah. But the emotional undercurrent of the music, that is aimed squarely at the adults in the room.
That makes a lot of sense.
When parents hear Baek Ji-young's nostalgic, sorrow-filled vocal performance, they aren't thinking about a magical sea creature.
Right, they're feeling it on a human level.
Exactly. They are subconsciously connecting with the universal pain of separation, the terror of losing a child, and the fierce, overwhelming protectiveness of parenthood.
So the music acts as a psychological bridge.
Precisely. It elevates the entire experience from a disposable Saturday morning cartoon into a universally resonant family epic.
The children feel the excitement and the parents feel the profound emotional stakes.
And it creates a shared, though completely different emotional experience for the two generations sitting side by side.
That is a brilliant way to structure a viewing experience. You are essentially hiding a deeply mature emotional drama inside a vibrant fantasy shell.
It's genius, really.
But obviously a film can't just exist in that heavy, melancholic space for 2 hours, especially an adventure story. It would be exhausting.
Oh, completely. The human brain needs contrast to truly appreciate emotion.
Yeah, if everything is sorrowful, sorrow just becomes background noise.
You have to break the tension to make the heavy moments hit harder.
Which brings us to the second crucial vocal archetype Kim Dae-ho utilizes in this soundtrack. And this one introduces a complete 180-degree shift in energy.
A total pivot.
We move from the veteran sorrow to what we could call the youthful catalyst, and this is entirely driven by contemporary K-pop idols.
The contrast here is just staggering.
Yeah, we see 2 specific tracks deployed here. According to the research, a duet called Open Your Eyes, performed by Jae-hee from the group NCT Wish and Yuha from Hearts to Hearts.
Both incredible groups, by the way.
Yeah. And that's followed by a solo track called My Dream by Yeon, who is also from Hearts to Hearts.
So, sonically and emotionally, if you look at the vocal production of these K-pop tracks, it is the exact antithesis of Han.
How so?
Well, instead of that breathy, internalized sorrow we talked about, these idol tracks are characterized by bright, forward vocal placement.
Right, very different technique.
The tone is sharp, it's clear, and it perfectly sits on top of a driving, contemporary synth-pop aesthetic.
And narratively, it represents raw determination, hope, and a boundless youthful curiosity.
Exactly. It perfectly captures that specific kinetic energy of entering a new world, the adventurous spirit of this vast marine setting.
It's lively, it's highly active, and functionally, it pushes the protagonist forward when she might otherwise be paralyzed by the grief we heard in the first track.
Which raises such an important psychological point about how an artist's real-world persona bleeds into the narrative.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean?
When you cast rising stars like Jae-hee, Yuha, and Yeon, you are injecting their actual real-world momentum into the story.
Because they're on the rise themselves.
Right. These are young artists who are actively climbing the industry ladder. Their voices literally carry the sound of aspiration.
That's a great point.
It is the sound of youth, actively pursuing a goal without being weighed down by the heavy burden of the past.
It perfectly balances the deep melancholy of Baek Ji-young's track.
It really does. It gives the audience room to breathe, to feel excited, and to physically feel the forward momentum of the hero's journey.
But, setting up these two opposing poles, the deep sorrow of the past and the energetic, hopeful pursuit of the future, it creates a massive narrative debt.
A debt that has to be paid off.
Exactly. You've built up all this emotional tension, and now you have to resolve it.
Yeah.
You have to bring the story to its absolute climax.
And this is the critical pivot point of our exploration today.
Because this is precisely where Gwyn Dorado steps in.
This is where the architecture reveals its true genius.
Yeah. Gwyn's track is called Light of Love. And structurally, its placement within the film is everything.
It's not just another song on the album.
No, it is the ultimate thematic resolution of the entire narrative arc. The articles we reviewed show that the lyrics and the tones celebrate immense resilience, the breaking of a devastating sea curse, and the enduring, conquering power of love.
The emotional heavy lifting required of the vocalist in this specific slot is absolutely staggering.
It is. So let's talk about the physical and vocal mechanics of what is actually being asked of her here. Because it's not simple.
Oh, not at all. To deliver a climactic resolution, a singer cannot just belt at top volume for 4 minutes.
Right. That would just be yelling.
Exactly.
Right.
There has to be a journey within the song itself. The track demands a transition that starts from a place of intense vulnerability.
Like a quiet opening.
Yeah, a very delicate, almost fragile opening where the voice has to sound like it could break at any moment.
Okay, and then?
From that whisper, the singer has to seamlessly build toward an explosive, physically demanding, emotionally cathartic climax.
And her ability to execute this relies heavily on her classical pop foundation, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
She possesses this incredibly rare ability to execute effortless register transitions.
And for our listeners who might not be vocal coaches, transitioning from a soft, breathy head voice down into a full-chested, resonant power belt without the audience hearing the break in the voice. That's hard, right?
It is one of the most difficult technical feats in singing, period. It requires absolute microscopic control over the vocal folds and immense core breath support.
But if we look past the stunning vocal mechanics for just a second, we have to interpret the profound psychological weight of this casting choice.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Think about the gravity of what the music directors are doing here. They have built this intricate narrative arc using revered domestic veterans and massively popular idol groups.
Right, heavy hitters.
And when it comes time for the emotional peak of the entire film, the moment the entire story hinges on /A, they look past all the established domestic talent and they trust her.
They trust Gwyn Dorado to deliver the payoff.
That is an astronomical level of responsibility to place on an artist who not that long ago was seen primarily as a foreign talent show discovery.
It suggests a massive leap in mutual confidence. The industry trusts her implicitly to translate their most vital emotional climax.
And she has to deliver.
And she possesses the internal self-assurance to actually carry that weight without buckling. It is a recognized, institutionalized maturity in her ability to handle complex emotional storytelling.
She's really matured.
When she sings Light of Love, she isn't just hitting the notes written on the page. She is actively resolving the emotional tension that Baek Ji-young's sorrow and the idol's hope built up over the preceding acts.
She is the anchor of the resolution. But, that level of trust from a director doesn't just materialize out of thin air, especially for an artist who wasn't born into that cultural ecosystem.
No, you have to earn that.
How did she actually build that emotional credibility? To understand how she earned this profound validation, it forces us to look back at the most dangerous phase of her career, surviving the child Prodigy label.
Yeah, we have to trace the deliberate, grueling steps of her evolution over the past decade.
And grueling is the right word. It was a crucible.
It really was. So let's set the baseline for her foundation.
Okay, take us back.
We have to go back to 2015 on the stage of Asia's Got Talent. She was just 10 years old.
10? That's so young.
I know. Picture this young girl, armed with an acoustic guitar, belting out Katy Perry's Roar.
I remember seeing clips of that. It was wild.
Even at that age, there was an undeniable, almost jarring vocal maturity. We know from the documentation that under the strict guidance of her Philippine vocal coach, Jojo Acosta, she was already establishing a baseline of immense technical endurance that most adults never achieve.
Right. And that specific transition phase, the gap between being a 10-year-old phenom and a respected adult artist, is arguably the most dangerous, highly mined territory in any performer's life.
It is an absolute psychological minefield.
We have seen countless artists lose their way or simply fade into obscurity during this time.
Oh, completely.
Why do you think that transition is so consistently fatal to careers?
Because the very things that made you special as a child, the novelty of a huge voice coming from a small frame, the precociousness, the awe factor, absolutely none of that applies when you reach adulthood.
Right, the cuteness factor wears off.
The grace period ends overnight. Suddenly, you aren't being judged against other children. You're being judged against the greatest vocalists in the world.
That's a huge shift in expectations.
You have to completely rebuild your artistic identity, your point of view, and your emotional depth from the ground up.
And you have to do it in public.
Exactly. While the public is watching, analyzing, and very often cynically expecting you to fail.
The fact that she navigated this transitional minefield by focusing on rigorous, relentless, quiet discipline rather than desperately clinging to her childhood fame is a massive testament to her psychological fortitude.
That quiet discipline eventually culminated in what can only be described as her ultimate proving ground.
The true test of her adult artistic identity took place on the JTBC television program Sing Again 4.
This was the absolute turning point. This is where the Prodigy died and the Specialist was born.
The premise of the show itself is a pressure cooker. She entered the competition stripped of her name, stripped of her past accolades. She was simply known as singer number 59.
It's a number.
And the mathematical facts of her run on this show, according to our research, are just staggering. She achieved the highest scores in the entire history of the franchise.
Highest ever.
Yeah. She earned a 798 out of 800 for her performance of the song I Want You, and a 799 out of 800 for Light Up.
Unbelievable.
She received perfect 100s from 7 out of the 8 judges.
We really need to pause on those numbers for a second and appreciate the reality of that environment.
Yeah, put that into context for us.
799 out of 800. We are talking about performing in a room full of elite, highly critical, deeply experienced industry professionals.
People who know exactly what to listen for.
People who have heard every vocal trick in the book. In that room, she essentially achieved mathematical perfection.
Almost impossible.
That simply does not happen just because you have a nice voice. That happens because you are operating at a level of technical and emotional mastery that literally leaves experts unable to find a flaw.
And the specific technical feedback she received during that run is incredibly revealing about how she was achieving this.
Yeah, the feedback was super specific.
Interestingly, Baek Ji-young, the same legendary veteran we were just discussing from the Teenieping soundtrack, was actually sitting on the judging panel for this show.
Which is a crazy full circle moment.
It is. And Baek Ji-young specifically praised Gwyn's ability to execute incredibly complex, challenging vocal runs, and her ability to transition smoothly from massive, powerful high belts straight into soft, controlled mid-low tones, completely without vocal fatigue.
That phrase, without vocal fatigue, is critical.
Why is that so important mechanically?
Well, physiologically, belting at high frequencies requires immense subglottal air pressure and very tight vocal fold reduction.
Right.
Doing that repeatedly damages the tissue if not supported perfectly by the diaphragm.
It literally hurts you if you do it wrong.
Exactly. To do that and then instantly relax a vocal tract to deliver a breathy, soft, mid-low tone requires an Olympic level of muscular control over the larynx.
It's pure athleticism, really.
But beyond just the physical control, there was another vital detail noted in her performances, her mastery of the layback technique, paired with exceptional breath control.
Yes. Let's thoroughly unpack this, because the layback technique is one of those concepts that musicians talk about with such reverence, but it can be hard to visualize if you aren't in the studio.
Yeah, it's a bit abstract.
Essentially, singing layback means you are intentionally singing just slightly behind the rhythm of the instrumental track.
But not dragging.
Right. You aren't dragging, you aren't offbeat, but you are purposefully delaying your vocal onset by a fraction of a second. It creates this incredibly relaxed, natural, almost hypnotic groove.
It draws you in.
If I can offer an analogy, think about a highly skilled conversationalist. You know when you are talking to someone who is deeply charismatic, and right before they deliver a truly profound thought, they pause for just a microsecond.
Yeah, they don't rush.
They don't rush to fill the silence.
What?
That tiny pause pulls you in closer. It forces you to lean in and hang on their next word.
I love that comparison.
That is exactly what the layback technique does musically. It creates a gravitational pull on the listener.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
And it perfectly captures the psychological dominance required to execute it.
Dominance. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
If we look at the psychological state of a singer using layback, it reveals immense, unshakable self-assurance.
So?
Think about it. When you are a young singer, especially in a high-stakes, televised competition setting, your biological fight-or-flight instinct is screaming at you to rush.
Oh, sure. Adrenaline.
Adrenaline makes you want to be right on top of the beat or even slightly ahead of it to prove to the judges that you know exactly where the music is, to prove that you are in control.
It's the panic response.
Exactly. To fight that adrenaline, to intentionally pull back, to let the beat happen, and then gracefully, confidently follow a millisecond behind it that suggests an artist who is completely devoid of performance anxiety.
That takes nerves of steel.
She is no longer anxious to prove herself. She isn't chasing the music. She is making the music wait for her. She is completely grounded in her own artistic rhythm.
Right, we cannot overstate the importance of her doing all of this completely anonymously.
Oh, the anonymity is huge.
Competing as singer number 59 meant she couldn't rely on a sob story, she couldn't rely on a montage of her past international successes, or her identity as the cute girl from the Global Talent Show.
Exactly. The anonymity was her greatest weapon.
It leveled the playing field.
It forced the audience and the judges to strip away all their preconceived notions and connect purely, solely with her emotional delivery.
It removed the context of the foreigner and left nothing but the raw, unfiltered communication of the human soul.
It proved definitively that her instrument, on its own sheer merit, could capture and hold the attention of an entire nation.
But you know, having the technical chops to impress a panel of judges is only half the battle.
Yeah, technique only gets you so far.
It's one thing to have perfect pitch and vocal control. It's an entirely different challenge to deliver emotion in a way that resonates authentically with a culture you were not born into.
Which is the hardest part.
Which brings us to the intense reality of her cultural immersion and emotional translation.
This is where we see the transition from a technically gifted singer to a deeply empathetic artist.
It's a big leap.
She made a very deliberate, high-risk choice. She committed to performing strictly in Korean on broadcasts.
That's bold.
In an era where many international artists lean heavily on English language releases to maintain a global safety net, she completely discarded that crutch.
And the level of personal, off-camera dedication this requires is staggering.
People don't see the behind-the-scenes work.
The documentation points out that we are talking about her writing daily diaries exclusively in Korean, conversing extensively with her peers from Sing Again 4 in their native language, and even meticulously studying local, regional slang.
Just for variety shows, right?
Yeah, just to prepare for appearances on mainstream, unscripted variety programs like Earth Arcade.
If you've ever tried to learn a second language, you know how incredibly frustrating and exhausting it is just to order a cup of coffee or ask for directions.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Now imagine the cognitive load of trying to perfectly convey the cultural grief of a nation on national television in that second language.
The pressure must be immense.
Think about the extreme vulnerability involved in writing a daily diary in a language you are still actively mastering.
Right, because a diary is so personal.
But diary is where you process your rawest, most private emotions. To force your brain to process your own internal vulnerabilities through a secondary linguistic filter is an act of deep emotional translation.
It really shows commitment.
It shows a profound desire to not just speak at the audience, but to connect authentically with them on their most intimate terms.
She wasn't just memorizing sounds.
No, she wasn't treating the Korean language just as a set of phonetic sounds to memorize in a studio booth. She was treating it as a cultural heartbeat that she needed to physically internalize.
And the slang study.
Learning slang for a variety show isn't just PR prep work. It's a rigorous commitment to understanding the humor, the comedic timing, and the cultural shorthand of the society she is performing for.
At the same time, she was immersing herself culturally. She was maintaining this intense, highly specific technical training.
She didn't let up on the vocals.
No. She continued her online vocal lessons with her original coach, Jojo Acosta, but with a highly specialized goal, working specifically to fuse her Western classical pop belts with the very nuanced, breathy phrasing required for Korean ballads.
That is such a tricky balance to strike.
But I have to admit, as someone who listens to a lot of music but doesn't sing professionally, I need some clarity here. How hard is it, realistically, to blend Western vocal mechanics with Eastern emotional phrasing? Is it just a matter of pronouncing the vowels differently? Or is the physical act of singing fundamentally different?
It is fundamentally anatomically different.
Really?
It is not just about pronunciation. It's like a master oil painter suddenly being told they have to learn to paint masterpieces using only watercolors.
Oh, wow.
The medium itself behaves entirely differently. In Western pop and classical belting, think of the big Celine Dion or Whitney Houston moments. The power is generated by a very forward, direct vocal placement.
Right, pushing sound out.
It's about projecting sound outward to conquer the physical space of a stadium. The vocal cords are brought firmly together to create a bright, penetrating sound.
Okay, I can picture that.
But in traditional Korean ballad phrasing, especially when dealing with the emotional weight of concepts like Han, the emotion is found in the restraint.
In the restraint.
Yes, it's found in the breath, in the slight intentional vocal cracks, in a much more internalized, darker resonance.
It's more intimate.
The breath control required is culturally specific. It's designed to sound like a private confession, not a public declaration.
That is a great distinction.
To take the sheer physical horsepower of a Western belt and somehow seamlessly weave it into the delicate, breath-infused, weeping phrasing of a Korean ballad requires an astonishing level of physiological control.
Because they're opposites.
You are asking the vocal cords to do two completely contradictory things at the same time. Her mastery of this exact blend is what makes her sound so uniquely devastating. It has the sheer power to blow the roof off, but it is delivered with an intimacy that makes it feel like she is whispering directly into your ear.
That is a phenomenal explanation. It's like she literally re-engineered the mechanics of her own instrument to play an entirely different cultural scale.
She really did.
And all of that preparation, the language diaries, the vocal re-engineering, the competition crucible, it all culminated in a major, undeniable milestone of validation.
Ah, yes. The My Royal Nemesis milestone.
Exactly. This wasn't just another soundtrack gig.
No, this was huge.
This was a central role for the SBS primetime drama My Royal Nemesis, which went on to become a massive global #1 hit on Netflix.
A global #1. Let that sink in.
She was specifically chosen to perform the track Losing My Heart, composed by the acclaimed Park Sung-il, with lyrics by Sa Dong-sum.
If we examine the emotional landscape of this specific track, it is incredibly demanding.
What's the theme?
It is a dramatic, sweeping power ballad centered entirely around complex adult themes, deep betrayal, the bitter loss of love, and profound regret.
Very heavy stuff.
It is a deeply melancholic, mature piece of storytelling.
And the fact that she was chosen for this specific role over dozens of established, native-born domestic singers who have been singing in this style their entire lives.
It says everything.
It is a massive, undeniable validation of everything she has worked for.
It absolutely is. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that her emotional resonance transcends both her young age and her geographical origin.
The director saw something special.
When the directors and producers of a massive, globally anticipated drama were looking for a voice to carry their most heartbreaking scenes, they didn't look at her and see a young, foreign pop singer or a talent show winner.
They saw an artist.
They saw a multifaceted, deeply serious storyteller capable of carrying the heavy, complex narrative of an adult drama.
That's a huge shift in perception.
When you are tasked with singing about the profound agony of betrayal on a television show that is sitting at #1 on Netflix globally, you are no longer a novelty act.
You're the real deal.
You are a foundational pillar of that production's dramatic success. It validates her entirely as a trusted specialist in deep melancholy and cinematic storytelling.
So we've traced the evolution from a prodigy singing Katy Perry through the anonymous fires of competition to her total cultural immersion and her ultimate primetime validation.
It's been a wild ride.
What does this all mean for where she goes next? Because this elite level of industry validation naturally dictates how an artist's career is structurally supported moving forward.
Right, the actual corporate infrastructure around her has completely shifted to match her newly elevated artistic status.
We see a very unique management framework that she entered into following her massive success on Sing Again 4, and after placing first on the spin-off show, famous singers need a hit song.
The dual agency model.
Exactly. She is now operating under a highly specialized dual agency model. She maintains her relationship with AO Entertainment to handle her solo releases, but crucially, she also signed a 2-year contract with Music Farm.
Which is fascinating.
And for our listeners who might not be deeply embedded in the Korean music industry infrastructure, we need to explain what Music Farm is.
Yeah, we have to give context here.
This is a highly prestigious, revered label. It is home to elite, artistry-driven vocalists, true musicians like Lee Juk, Kim Dong-rul, and John Park.
Signing with Music Farm is a massive signal to the entire industry.
How would you describe them to someone who doesn't know the scene?
Well, to give our listeners a contextual anchor, if the standard massive K-pop agencies are like major blockbuster movie studios like Marvel, cranking out highly polished, tightly choreographed, visually explosive spectacles designed for mass global consumption, Music Farm is like A24.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Or in Western music terms, it's the equivalent of being invited to record at Muscle Shoals or being signed by Quincy Jones. It is a boutique prestige house.
It's about the art, not just the spectacle.
Exactly. When you align with a label like Music Farm, you are making a definitive statement about your long-term artistic identity.
They aren't looking for quick viral hits.
No, they're not in the business of manufacturing standard, dance-heavy, trend-chasing K-pop idols. They cultivate premium, album-oriented artists.
So this move says a lot about her trajectory.
This dual agency structure strongly suggests that she's being actively nurtured as a long-term prestige vocalist. The industry isn't pushing her to chase fleeting viral TikTok dance trends. They're giving her the architectural space and the elite resources to craft lasting, profound musical narratives.
It's almost like she is being deliberately positioned as the definitive bridge between massive global pop sensibilities and the traditional, deeply rooted emotional resonance of Hallyu music.
Exactly, because she possesses both the staggering technical firepower of a global stadium pop star and the nuanced, breathless, empathetic delivery of a domestic Korean ballad specialist.
She occupies a very rare, almost unprecedented space in the market.
She could easily become the standard bearer for this completely new hybrid sound.
Extrapolating from this structure, it suggests we may very well see her taking on even more complex, character-driven cinematic soundtracks in the future.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
If she is already trusted to anchor the emotional climax of major theatrical animated features and primetime global Netflix dramas, it stands to reason she could continue shaping the literal emotional landscape of South Korean media for years to come.
She has transitioned from a singer to a vital narrative instrument for these music directors.
She truly has. And, discussing her role as a narrative instrument actually brings to mind a fantastic, highly relevant question we received from a listener during our last deep dive into her early career.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you remembered that.
Let's address it, because it perfectly ties this all together.
What was the question again?
The listener asked, is this multi-tiered vocal casting playbook, bringing in different singers for different emotional beats in a movie, simply taken from Disney, or is it entirely different?
It's an incredibly astute question.
Because on the surface, you look at an animated film, you see various pop singers attached to the soundtrack, and your brain naturally assumes it's just the standard Disney model being applied to South Korean cinema.
It is a great question, but the answer is that the underlying philosophy is entirely different.
Okay, let's break that down.
Let's deconstruct how Disney traditionally operates with its musical casting, especially over the last 30 years.
Right.
Very often, Disney uses the actual voice actors to sing the in-film musical numbers so the character's voice remains consistent.
Like Idina Menza as Elsa.
Exactly. And then, as a completely separate marketing strategy, they will hire a massive, established global pop star like Celine Dion and Peebo Bryson for Beauty and the Beast, or Christina Aguilera from Mulan.
Oh, right, for the radio version.
Yes, to record a slick, radio-friendly pop cover version of the main theme. But crucially, that pop version almost always plays over the end credits.
It's not in the actual movie itself.
Right. It exists outside the narrative of the film. It is an external touchpoint designed primarily to boost visibility on mainstream radio, drive album sales, and create a marketing hook.
Right, it's a promotional tie-in. The movie is over, the story is resolved, and now we get the radio single.
Exactly. But the South Korean approach we've been analyzing today, especially in projects governed by directors like Kim Dae-ho on Teenieping, is structurally and fundamentally different.
How so?
They aren't just tacking a famous singer's name onto the end credits for a quick marketing bump. They are weaving these specific, distinct vocal archetypes directly into the active narrative stages of the film itself.
Into the actual story beats.
Yes. The deep sorrow, the Han, brought by a veteran like Baek Ji-young, isn't a bonus track on Spotify. It is the literal emotional core of the mother-daughter storyline playing out on screen.
It's happening in real time for the characters.
And the bright, driving energy of K-pop idols like Jaehee, Yuha, and Yeon represents the literal, real-time forward momentum of the characters in the second act.
So what about Gwyn's role?
The specialized, explosive vocal power of a global talent like Gwyn Dorado isn't saved for a radio edit. It is placed at the exact moment of climactic narrative resolution within the story.
She is the climax.
The singer is acting as the internal voice of the character's soul during the climax. It is an integrated emotional architecture. The voices are load-bearing building blocks of the story itself, not just an add-on to sell a soundtrack album.
That distinction makes perfect sense, and it highlights the immense respect the industry has for the power of the vocal instrument.
It's the difference between a promotional afterthought and structural storytelling.
So, if we synthesize everything we've unpacked today from her early foundations as a guitar-playing 10-year-old through the intense psychological crucible of anonymous competition, her profound dedication to cultural, linguistic, and physiological immersion, and her ultimate validation as a dramatic storyteller on the global stage.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the main takeaway from all the documentation is brilliantly clear. Gwyn Dorado's journey from a young viral talent to a trusted, specialized voice in South Korean media proves something vital.
No draft.
Technical mastery is impressive, but when it is combined with genuine, humble, grueling cultural empathy, it creates a truly universal language that transcends any border.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with something profound to mull over as we watch her career continue to unfold.
Give us a final thought.
When an artist sings in a second language, they aren't just translating words on a page. It's not a mathematical equation. They are translating their soul into a completely new cultural frequency. They are finding a way to make their innermost, private emotions understandable to a heart that beats in an entirely different cultural rhythm.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
And as Gwyn Dorado continues to master this profound act of translation, it raises a fascinating question for the future of the global music industry.
Which is?
Will this new model of institutionalized global vocalists, artists who are not kept as foreign novelties or tourist acts, but who are seamlessly, deeply integrated into the domestic storytelling pipeline, fundamentally change the sound of Hallyu music worldwide?
Wow, that's a huge question.
Are we rapidly approaching a point where the distinction between domestic Korean emotion and global pop sensibility becomes completely, beautifully indistinguishable?
That is a phenomenal thought to end on, and something to watch very closely as the industry evolves.
I know, I'll be watching.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive as we explored the intricate architecture of emotion, the heavy burden of the Prodigy, and the evolution of a truly extraordinary artist. Keep exploring, keep listening closely to the mechanics behind the emotion, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.